The truth of the matter is that if you are living on purpose, you will be tested. And it's almost like no way around that. If you really think about it, you want to be tested when you're living on purpose. And it's not going to be just up to me today to help you get an understanding of this. I have an amazing, outstanding, intellectual guest today that I'm super excited to ask powerful questions, sit back and listen because I know Andrew, he's about to blow your mind away. Welcome to the podcast, Andrew. How
Hey,
are
thanks
you
so
today?
much. I'm excited. This is fun. I'm already having fun. You're just fun. We could just have fun together.
Yes, we literally are already having fun because here it is. We're about to jump right in. In our pre-podcast conversation, you told me about a $50 million moment and how you had to turn that down in order
Yep.
to stay aligned with your purpose. So, can you let the audience know what was the exact moment that you knew that you had to say no? And what fear did you have to confront to make that decision?
So first, I'm afraid my wife will see this podcast and she'll kill me for turning down 50 million. So that's my first fear because this is only the second time I told this story. The first time was in another country on a podcast, nobody will see in the US. So, and I'm afraid maybe I'm joking, but, hopefully my business partner in that venture doesn't see this. But if he does, I love him and we'll see what happens. I love my wife. Hopefully she'll love me after this. So, about a year ago, I've been studying spirituality and something we call Kabbalah, it's ancient mysticism. And I was also a business coach and I built businesses. And I always use these spiritual philosophies and techniques to help me build my businesses. And it went really, really well. And about a year ago, I said, I'm just going to come out of the closet about it, that I'm a spiritual coach. I believe in spirituality, the light, the creator. I study mysticism and I use it in my business, and it's really successful for my clients. Maybe I've coached 4,000 people in 30 years, right? And it works. And I also um, was the number one professor at two different universities because I taught this stuff. I didn't call it Kabbalah or spirituality or mysticism. I would get kicked out for that. But in business school, MBA students, I would teach them Kabbalah and mysticism to be like, oh my God, this is so great. So I knew I had to just come out of just let the world know. So last year, I started this nonprofit. It took a while, to get it up and running. And I started slowly, I just came out with it. What I do, I put my website up and whatever's going to happen, happen. But I want to let people know now that spirituality and mysticism, working with business scaling, business growth techniques together are more powerful together than apart.
Yeah.
And so I started building this business. But when you come out and you start doing this, then the work comes of building the business. Now I have to find entrepreneurs, right, who are spiritual, who also want to change the world. I call them change agents. They want to change the world somehow. And that's the kind of people I wanted as clients, right? Change agents who really want to make a difference in the world. It's looking for a needle in a haystack because
Mm.
there's plenty of people out there who want to grow their business, make money, right? Scale and be entrepreneurs. But to combine it with people of consciousness, it's one out of 1,000.
Yeah.
So it was slow going, right? To find the right people to work with, although I was having a lot of fun. And for a couple of years before that, I had a partner who was in the world of finance, and we were gonna, what a lot of people in finance do today is they buy smaller companies, they put them together, um, and then they grow the company much more efficiently, and then they sell it to private equity. It's like a
Mhm.
thing. They're doing it in every sort of field, doctors' offices, HVAC companies, you name it. Private equity comes in and they create efficiencies and then resell it. So with this person, when we've been looking for 2 years for people to invest in this concept and buy coaching companies and put them together, there's really not a lot of big coaching companies out there, couple, but create this financial, you know, uh, uh, opportunity where we buy 10, 20, 15 small companies, put them together, and then sell it for $200 million or $400 million, right? Very exciting. And lo and behold, about 4 or 5 months after I launched my nonprofit, and I'm an executive director of a nonprofit, this guy comes to me and goes, I may have found somebody who really wants to help us. I'm like, now you're going to me. So long story short, we meet with this guy. Wonderful guy. I mean, really, the people in one of the misconceptions people have that financial finance people and people in private equity are ruthless. So they want to just build companies and create jobs, and they're wonderful people. And we met for about 3, 4 hours. I couldn't say no to the meeting. 3, 4 hours. At the end, he's like, I love you guys' ideas. Let's start working. You know, um, I can give you up to 50. He had $2 billion. I can give you up to $50 million to start looking for a company to buy it. And that was really, for most people to get somebody with $2 billion who's willing to give you $50 million, that's life changing,
Yeah.
right? Life changing. And of course, he would have paid us both salaries, me and my partner, and we would have had a percentage of the company. But I would be a CEO. I would be the one being the CEO of this company, looking for companies and buying them. And, not all sure it's in my field, which is coaching, but not all coaching companies are spiritual. There's all sorts of types of, it would be a business where I'd be reporting to people. I'd have a job. Sure, I'd own a percentage of the company, but it'd be like an all-day job and have to leave everything else behind. And so I was driving home and I was just, I knew it was a test,
Mm.
but I was depressed because this is what we've been working on for many years.
Yeah.
And as soon as I opened or a few months into it, and things were hard, right? Because now I am starting a new business where I have to find spiritual entrepreneurs.
Right.
It's hard to find them. And just because you find your purpose doesn't mean now all of a sudden the gates will open and
Yeah.
it's going to be easy. So that's a test in and of itself. And then to get this test, um, I knew I had to say no
Mm.
because this was the test from, call it the light or God or creator.
Yeah.
Really, are you serious about changing the world, Andy? You really want to help spiritual CEOs build $100 million companies and change the world and, clean the oceans and, you know, uh, solve the mental health crisis and the spiritual crisis and et cetera, et cetera. Okay, here's your test.
Yeah.
After 30 years of work, you never had an opportunity like this. Here it is, 50 million bucks. What are you going to do?
Mm.
And so, it was I I I had to be very diplomatic about it, but I knew that this was the test,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
had to say no to it.
And that's so powerful because it sounds like that was a breaking point, right? Like in your overall story. And one thing I found, like as I personally coach, is that a lot of people want to get to the destination, but the real
Hmm.
juice is inside of the journey, it's inside your story. That's the reason why I love my podcast and love creating a platform where I can connect with many people, amazing people just like you, to share the story. So that was your breaking point. But now I'm curious, in that moment, how did you recognize it as a test versus a setback?
Well, for me, it wasn't a setback, and I knew it was obvious
Mm,
because it was so obvious that the light was in the business, the creator was in the business. Because first of all, having all this experience in business, even if you get $50 million, first of all, that doesn't mean you're going to be a success. It just sometimes feels like it. Sometimes um, you know, all that money can uh, destroy your perspective. But
mm,
for me, we have been conditioned. I would say, was this the breaking point? Was this like, I wouldn't say breaking point, it was a turning point.
mm.
But with breaking points, what I would say is people think that once they live on purpose, they're going to have one breaking point. Because we've been conditioned by movies and TV, right? The hero uh, uh, almost dies and then finally at the end kills the dragon,
Yeah.
right? So we think we're going to have one test. And the truth is, if you're really a true seeker and you really want to create lasting fulfillment and really connect to your purpose, you're going to have many breaking points.
Yeah.
That's life. Many breaking points in your spiritual journey. So I look at what I look at it almost like your life isn't a movie.
Yeah.
It's a TV series. All
Mm.
right. With many, every year is a different, right, season where
Mm.
there's going to be drama, ups and downs, and you're going to have an enemy, usually an internal enemy, sometimes external, and you're going to have breaking points all along the way. And then you beat the dragon, you slay the dragon. Next season comes, there's a new dragon.
Yeah.
So for me, that's just one of many. I think that was a real crucial moment because nobody would have faulted me for not working on my nonprofit and saying, go for that 50 million, buy a 25 to $50 million company, start buying more. Yeah, you're going to work a lot, Andy. You're going to be in this corporate financial, like, but you're going to make a lot of money and then sell a company for nobody would have faulted me for that. So
Yeah.
that was a real right turn. But there's other breaking points along the way where I was like, working. Sometimes I would do marketing for a month, 2 months, no new clients. You know,
Yeah.
that's a breaking point too. That's like, am I doing things right? Or I hire people to help me with marketing, doesn't work out.
Yeah.
I have to find new people, right? The process of the business is going to test you every step of the way, whether you're trying to build $100,000 business or $1 million business or $100 million business. Every
Yeah.
step of the way, you'll have these. Look at it, look every year. The most fun way to look at it, if we
Yeah.
look at, you should look at your life like a movie, but more like a TV series
Yeah.
where you're the hero.
Yeah.
And every season, every year is a new season,
Oh, yeah.
new season of your movie. So
Yes.
hope that
Mm.
answers the question.
Very much so does. I have a few pointers that I want to talk about with that is you're so right because think about this. We can have one basic movie, right? And like if the producer or all of the logistics that comes behind the movie has decided we're just going to put this one out, but we need to make it 2, 3 hours long and it needs to have all of the ups and downs of the emotions. But yes, 9 times out of 10, the movie is going to end with slaying the dragon. There's the hero, right?
Yeah,
But then think about Fast and the Furious. They have like 275 different movies out. And that movie just keeps going and going and going. And wow, some people could have one perspective of like, oh, I fell off at number 3 and I'm over it and I'm tired. The actors, the producers, the people investing in that movie, they see something greater. So it's like that is kind of reminding me of like the premises of what we're talking about is the test. Do you stop moving forward in your purpose because the internal enemy, like you said, or the naysayer said, you've already did 3 of these. Like, what other story could you tell? Like, how
yeah,
could you do more of these? Or do you have a producer mindset and recognize that we are the producers of our destiny? And if we decide
great
to
point.
stop, it's only the inevitable that we'll then see more signs to stop, right? Like
Absolutely.
I've seen it so many times. Like, small example. Do you know from the last time we talked, which was really recent, to right now, I just recently found out I'm 17 weeks pregnant. And I'm
Oh,
like,
congratulations.
I'm like,
New movie,
exactly a brand new movie. And
brand
so
new
wow,
movie.
next spring, in my mind, I literally was just telling the women in my
Oh,
business confidence
exciting.
be like, oh, springtime come, we're in Savannah, we're gonna hit the beach, we're gonna have our
Yeah,
flag
your party.
summits. Yeah, no, I'm gonna have a
No.
big baby bump.
Yep. It's gonna be fun. Yeah, so so what you're saying is, I mean, sometimes the tests, yeah, yes, you definitely it's a great way to look at it. It's very
Yeah.
wise to look at your life. You're a producer of your movie series or your TV series, right? And yes, just like in a TV series, there'll be things that come up. Woo, you're pregnant. Woo, this happened, right? Sometimes good things, but that will change where the movie's going.
Yes.
And yes, not to quit because a good producer, I think that's what you're saying, a good producer sees more.
Yeah.
and sees we could do this and we could do this. And then, we get this actor involved and this idea, and it keeps going,
Yep.
right? That's a series. Then there's a lot of successful series, right? And there's always something new. But look at the setbacks. The setbacks are actually, if you're living on purpose,
Hmm.
you're going to have more breaking points. You're going to have more setbacks because you're going to be coming up against the wall, like the limits of your ego, what's
Yeah.
comfortable. And it's easy to stay in our comfort zone. Our biggest enemy um, for spiritual growth and business growth, any sort of growth, is our ego. Our ego wants to keep us safe. Ego isn't bad, but our ego goes, the fears that come up or whatever negative sadness, whatever negative feelings come up, it's just your ego or anxiety, worry, right? It's your ego trying to protect you from going out of your comfort zone. But
Mm.
we know success is always on the other side of
Yeah.
that comfort zone. So breaking points will come more.
Yeah.
And they may come from, may also come from you. I don't know if anybody's ever done when you're about to you're decided to do something really powerful. You want to do something really amazing.
Yeah.
And then you'll get in a huge fight with your mom,
Yeah.
your family, something else, or your kids. And it blows your conscious. You can't concentrate and go, oh, maybe somehow my ego set this or my set this situation up to test me. Now, am I going to be able to go do this public speaking thing or
Yeah.
launch this business when I have
Yeah.
this other thing going, like with you, right? It's a great thing, but maybe you had plans and now you're pregnant. Beautiful thing, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Going to be a lot of work and a lot of
Oh,
responsibility.
yeah.
And maybe you wanted to do take your podcast on the road and go around and interview people around the country. Well, too bad. Or if you're going to do that, now how do you do that with a child? That could be a much more powerful way to do it,
Yeah.
right? And people are like, wow, this woman's going around with a baby and she's interviewing people all over the country, but it's your next level.
Yeah.
So you either look at it as a breaking point or you look at it like a producer. Great. We have these new situations set up. How are we going to do this? What's the next step?
Yeah.
So that's it's a very interesting to think about.
Yeah.
And you're right on with the producer analogy.
Yes. Ooh, this was so good and actually leads me right into the next question because now I'm curious about intellect. And then you mentioned ego. And I remember, of
Mhm.
course, in our previous conversation, we talked about like the different levels, like the mind, the gut. I want you to
Yeah.
tell them all about it. So, can you share a time when following your intellect would have led you possibly down the wrong path, but your heart
Yeah.
or your gut told you something different? And I'm
Yeah.
curious, were you proven right or wrong?
Yeah. So the intellect is very sneaky
Mm,
because we're trained in our society, right, to get smarter and smarter and learn more and develop our intellect, our IQ and everything. Very important. But in my studies, I've realized that there's actually, and this is all proven by science already, we actually have three brains or three intellects. One of them is our intellect, our mind, right?
mhm.
It's what we're using right now to have a conversation. But we also have our gut, right? Our gut sense. This is and really good great leaders and great entrepreneurs know how to use their gut to get a sense of it's like your feeling center.
Yeah.
And there's actually neurons in your gut, in your stomach, right? It's almost like a cat. I like to describe it at. There's about as much, it's actually more, but there's about a cat brain's worth of neurons in your stomach. You have a cat in there. You have to listen to this cat because the cat will, doesn't speak through words or intellect, but sometimes you'll get a sense, right, of, that thing isn't right, or I shouldn't do that, right? And we don't trust our cat, even
Mm,
though it's a very powerful intellect in a way, a brain. And the third one is we have our heart, right? We know what that means. Come from your heart, be heart-centered. I thank God we're in a society today already where people understand what that means.
yeah.
And you also have neurons in your heart. You can literally think with your heart and think, what would my heart do in this situation? So what I notice is that the top 1% of leaders, they use all three of these brains
Mm.
and to make decisions. And I'll give you some examples, but like, um, 70% of decisions are based on your emotions. We don't know how much our emotions affect our decision making.
Yeah.
And we all know this to be true. How many times have you done something you know wasn't right for you, did it anyway,
Yep.
right? We've all done that. But intellectually, right? But in our gut, we knew, or right, we didn't do something. We should have done it, but our fear or our worry stopped us from
Yeah.
doing something. We're like, oh, I can't believe I knew it. I knew it. You didn't really know it. Your gut knew.
Mm.
Intellectually, you were, in a way, stuck because your intellect looked, oh, this is perfect. This person is perfect for my business. It's a great partner. On paper, they look great, but in your gut was telling you, meow, meow, meow. Be careful. Your cat
Mhm.
brain's like, something's not right here. You had a
Yeah.
sense. So I have so many stories, and because I work with clients, sometimes it's easier, and that's why it's important to have a coach like you or me or anybody. It's important to have a mentor or coach because you can look at things from afar. And sometimes when a client is telling me a story about this great, and I just recently, uh, this client had a great opportunity to bring somebody on to help them in their business. And this was about a year ago. We just found out something about this. It's really amazing. Uh, Somebody on paper looked amazing. They've been involved in the same business for like 30 years. Um, they would come on as partners, help this person, blah, blah. It would have intellectually looked great. This person's telling me this thing, and I'm like, I question the client, like, is there, what do you, I don't know. I don't feel that. What do you, because also in his voice, there was something missing.
Yeah.
And we realized we slowed things down, the
Mhm.
excitement, because we can be led astray by emotions of excitement too.
Yeah.
We can get too excited about something and have blinders on. It's
Yeah.
not just the neck. For sure, we know that when we're angry or sad, we shouldn't make decisions. We kind of know that intuitively. But when you're too excited, too many positive emotions, that can also you go into something too quickly, right? The people get married too quick. Oh, I found my soulmate. Every week they found their soulmate, right? This is my soulmate, right? We all have friends like that. They get so excited about a new person. Oh, I think soulmate and get married. 2 weeks later, it's done. There's another soulmate,
Yeah.
right? We all have that friend. Maybe it's us
Right.
also. So I slowed things down with this client because I could see something, but he also realized that yeah, something didn't seem right. We didn't know what it was.
Mm.
But I helped this person because go down, go to their gut, go to their heart and go, what's your real feeling on this?
Yes.
And the painful answer was that, yeah, something, it just seems too good to be true. Long story short, just recently, he told me this person got caught for fraud by doing to somebody else. And actually, he hit it. He had like a string of fraudulent cases where he was grossly negligent in companies. Yeah, like one after another, but a smooth talker, very intelligent. And we're like, oh, thank God. But on intellect, it looked perfect.
Yep.
But because the person slowed down, um, they were able to, yeah, something wasn't right. And this
Yeah.
is what we need to trust. When our cat brain's telling us or our heart's telling us something isn't right, that's what you need to trust.
Yep.
Yeah, or take time, or don't make a decision right away. Take your time. Don't sign the contract. Don't get married or whatever it is very quickly. Take your time, and actually, so it worked out great, you know? And thank God this guy doesn't have a partner who's a fraudster.
Right.
So there's been a lot of stories like that. Trusting your gut,
Yes.
because your intellect will betray you often.
Yes. Now, let me tell you why this is so good. Because, of course, and I hope I'm not jumping ahead too far. When I'm kind of looking at our notes, I don't think I am,
Mhm.
but it's reminding me of the pre-conversation that we had when you just now mentioned that the person looked good on paper, had all of these years in the game, right? Like all of these years. And kind of like what we mentioned earlier in this conversation was that it's not about the where you make it to, it's directly about the journey. And
Mhm.
so, of course, what we're going to talk about next is the emptiness of success, but can you share that story with me that you was telling me about the celebrity?
Yeah.
And can you tie that into helping the audience understand that one thing that we don't want to do is be the person that gets 30 years into success. We look good on paper, but
Yep.
our heart is not sincere because over the years we've did a little bit of fraud here and that got us $100,000 over here and a $50,000 deal over
Yeah.
here. Like, can you really help the audience understand how if you don't like take that time to be sincere, and that's the power of the spirituality that we're talking about because the world is so like moral kind of going down a little bit in
Yep.
reference to like you can easily get persuaded with the dollar. You can easily
100%.
get tricked by somebody who just because again, like you said, they say they have 200 some odd billion dollars, you'll get swayed, but then by the time you make the decision, you're feeling empty. So like can
Yeah.
you share the story that
Yeah,
you know what
sure.
I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
so there's I was a fellow coach who was like Micah senior level coach, spiritual coach. This is years ago. I was in LA and she was the coach to I don't want to say the name, one of the most iconic Hollywood stars ever. Like huge, one of the top 5 Hollywood stars ever, right? Great client to have. And, she told me she visited this person's home that was like a mansion with like a pool. You used to imagine like a Hollywood mansion, old school mansion, just looks like beautiful. Went in there, and this person who has made a lot of money, has fans all over the world, is an icon.
Yeah.
She said, she lives there all alone. She was older in life already, all alone, without anybody. She went through a string of divorces. I guess her kids weren't around. She did have kids. The important things, which is family and friends. She had nobody. She lived in this big house all alone. And it saddened, it was also she felt the energy, she left this coach, left the spiritual mentor, I would say spiritual mentor, left this home feeling sad, like she felt the sadness. But you would think a person like this, who's like, huge, would be surrounded by family and friends and love and fulfillment. And the truth is that, a lot of us take that route. We want to be, have the most clicks, right? Everybody wants to be famous on social media and have money and all the stuff. And in fact, if you get that, one of the blessings of life is striving.
Yeah.
Because I know so many people, maybe you do too, and I'm living in New York. I met a lot of very, very rich people. I could tell you so many stories. Like they're so empty. They made all the money, but they have nothing. Okay,
Yeah.
yes, they have a house in the Hamptons and a beautiful apartment and a bunch of cars, but they really have nothing. They come to the end of their life and they're like, wow, I know it sounds crazy, but just because you have $100 million in the bank doesn't mean you're happy. In
Right.
fact, it makes people less happy because once they make it, and we see this a lot, like if you look at rock stars or music stars, how come so many of them become drug addicts or commit suicide, God forbid, right? So many, why have they done that? Because they get all the fame, but they're still empty. Something is missing. So, and by the way, a great, great movie to see for anybody who is a parent or is planning on being a parent, see this documentary called Born Rich.
Yes.
Born Rich came out, I think it's free. I think it's on YouTube. One of the sons, the grandsons of a Johnson, Johnson and Johnson, that company,
Yep.
he made a documentary about him and all his friends and all these super, super uber wealthy kids. And you'll see one kid, you don't want to be friends with any of these kids, even though they're like princes and scions of these huge families. And he knows a prince in Europe, and they're empty because they have a trust fund. And I know it sounds like, oh, be quiet, Andy. I would love to have $1 million a year trust fund. No, they have nothing. They
Yep.
have nothing. something to strive for. So thank God, count it as a blessing that you don't have everything yet. Because
Mm,
striving and working hard and having purpose, that's that's worth more. These kids, the kid says a story, this Johnson, that or one of his friends who his I think car they're oil barons, right? They own oil companies. And the kid tells a story about how one summer he went to work on an oil rig, like as an intern, like just working on an oil rig, getting all those roughnecks. And he looks back on that experience as the most fun he ever had in his life. Isn't that great? It's in the movie. And yes, because he was working, he was, part of a team. He had purpose every day,
yeah,
even though he had all the money in the world. But he was working as a roughneck on an oil rig, and it was the most fun he ever had.
yeah,
So now, what's the answer to this? Very important, to work with you, with somebody, with your pastor, I don't know, to come up with your values, first of all, because values go beyond religion. It doesn't matter what religion you are, or even if you're an atheist, it doesn't matter. What are your values? Okay. And from your values, you can kind of start seeing your purpose. What are the things you've done when you were, no matter how old you are, look back in your life and where have you shared the most with people? Like when you did something and it affected them the most positive way. That's where you get purpose and you'll see your values shine through those. So a lot of these people who become rich and stuff, they never think about their values. They just want to become famous, want to become rich. They don't think about how are they giving back, right? The most satisfying thing is, right, when you share with somebody and you affect their life. So if you and the happiest, let's say rich, because nothing wrong with being rich, the happiest rich people or the happiest like successful people are the ones who are giving back. And look what happens to all these very uber successful people like Bill Gates or something. What do they do at the end of their life? Warren Buffett. They're starting nonprofits. They're sharing everything. All this time they spent all this accumulating. Now they realize that didn't mean anything.
yep,
Now I'm going to share. So start doing it now. Find ways to share with your community, with your family. Call that aunt or uncle or your mom you haven't spoken with in a month. Start sharing and find ways that you add value through your values to people. If your values are, let's say growth or entrepreneurship, who can you help with that? If your value is family, how can you help people who don't have families or bring your family together? Whatever your values are, we're not, we all have them and they're all different. We have to lead from your values and
yeah,
build a business and bring people in to work with you who have the same values. And then
yeah,
you'll always have fulfillment
yeah,
or it'll be easier to find it. I
yeah.
hope that makes sense because it's a
Of course.
mouthful.
Yes, that makes so much sense. And I would like to add on to that is that it's safe for our listeners to know and to remember that over time, your value system may change, right? Ideally, it's great to change for the better, but it may change, and that's okay. And it's okay to, like you said, and you mentioned with that client, to slow down because maybe when we're overexcited about the pursuit of greatness,
Mhm.
we are not very cognitive that with that overexcitement energy, we're just attracting the value of money, the value of a big bank account. But when you slow down and you're able to evaluate, even if it's for like an hour of slowing down, a walk in the park, you may be able to
Yep.
slow down and say, hold up, I do realize that I'm becoming a mother again, a wife again, a husband, a this, a that. And my value system is going to really change because maybe I've put in 30 years in corporate, but now I want to take my RV around the United States. So if I do take on this new business venture, if I do attract this partner, they already told me that they're going to want to talk on the Zoom call 15 times a week. I don't
Mhm.
value that in my up and coming life anymore. And so I
Mhm.
think that's the power of the purpose and the spirituality. So
Right.
as we like bring this powerful talk to a wrap, can you share how over the past 30 years you've spent time studying the Kabbalah? And can you share with us what is a spiritual principle that you personally struggle to live by? And until you kind of got it together, life forced you to practice it in real time.
Right. So that's a great question, and it's something that I'm still learning. It's evolving. I'm still trying to work on this. But I thought for a long time that spirituality was about love thy neighbor as thyself, right? Heard this adage everywhere. And it took me about 10, and I really tried that. I tried even my enemies, everybody. I really try to love them and hug, like literally physically hug them and try to love everybody. But, not everybody loves me. You know, how could they not love me? But, I'm a nice guy, but I, it took me a long time because to realize that it's not about love. Of course, love is important, but it took me 10 years to get to a place where and I knew this thing, I knew this saying, but that's how I try to live my life. It's not about love thy neighbor as thyself. There's
Hmm.
another thing in the Bible that says, what is distasteful to you, do not do unto others.
Ooh,
Do not do unto your neighbor. It's from a guy named Rabbi Hillel, who was one of the ancient, one of right after the Bible, but at ancient times. So, or some people say it's what is odious unto you, do not do unto others. Meaning, if it stinks, if it would stink, if it would happen to you, don't do to others. In fact, somebody came to this guy, Rabbi Hillel. Rabbi means teacher. So Rabbi Hillel and asked him, explain to me the whole Bible while standing on one foot. And he's like, no problem. Because he went around to different rabbis, this guy asking, explain to me the Bible, standing on one foot. And they're like, you're crazy. Get out of here. And Raphael said, no problem. He stood on one foot and says, do not do unto others what is odious unto you, not go and study. That's it. That's the Bible. That's all the spiritual teachings.
yeah,
Meaning, be respectful, have human dignity. And every decision or every action you take, if that decision would be odious to you, if it would stink, maybe that's not the right decision to take.
yeah,
That's something you can live by. It's very practical because love thy neighbor as thyself. It's sometimes hard. No matter how nice, we're not going to love everybody. All
yeah,
right. Some people are just going to poke our buttons, push our buttons. There's no way we can love them. It's very,
yeah,
but we can respect them. And that's what's missing from the world in general, and also in the world of business. And we see the businesses. It's changing though. The businesses that are respectful, good stewards of the environment, good stewards of their people, you know, their customers, we see like Zappos, all these companies, they do really, really well,
yeah,
right? They're respectful. Even let's take one of the biggest companies, Amazon. You can say anything about Jeff Bezos, whatever, but they're very respectful of our time, aren't
yeah,
they? You go on Amazon, you got an app, you can order whatever you want. That's what their business. Their business is about respecting your time.
yes,
We have no time today. So Amazon said, no problem. We're going to make it so easy to get that thing you want, right? Because you have kids, having another kid, you don't have time to go to Target today.
right,
But so even that business, even though they're not about, that's not this is their value or their mission statement. It's really about respect. And that's so bringing it back down, we can we can be a good business person, a good executive, a good mom, a good dad. Well, what does good mean? Good means is that you're just respectful and you have common courtesy to everybody. Just the way you want to be treated. We won't agree with everybody. Some people will not like us. We won't like some people,
yeah,
right? All these things. We're human. We're living all humans that bother us, and we bother them.
yeah,
But you can be respectful. And I believe that's spirituality. And that's the way I try to mentor my client companies into creating circles of respect in
yeah,
your company, meaning you respect, first of all, yourself, right? Most important thing, you treat yourself with respect. And I ask people what that means, right? It means getting enough sleep, eating well, letting go of negative emotions, getting therapy if you're stressed out, the things if somebody came to you, you would tell them to do, right?
yeah,
We often don't do that. Getting 7 hours of sleep. Somebody's super tired. Somebody came to us, oh, just exhausted. What are you doing, Mom? I'm up every night. I'm watching TV. Get some sleep, my friend,
Yeah.
right? And then respect the people they work with, respect their customers, respect their vendors, the postman who comes, the guy who delivers your pizza. Just treat them with respect.
Yeah.
That changes everything. And it's sometimes takes 10, 20, 30 years to learn such a simple lesson, but that's the one you know, I'm working on, still working on today, but I see it working, you know? So that's like the one, and it maybe takes 30 years of study to get to that point, right? But that is, it's a very wise thing this guy Hillel said, you know, on one leg. He explained the whole Bible, right? Pretty cool.
Right.
So that's my story. Sticking to it.
Oh, goodness. What an amazing story. And I just want to piggyback off of what you said right there, in the shift that you had, because if you kind of do take the perspective of love your neighbor as yourself, it can be so subjective because there are sometimes parts of ourselves that we don't love about ourselves. And so,
Right.
if that is the case, and one is an individual who has many parts about themselves that they don't love, it's the inevitable that they'll treat others outside of themselves, if they're going by the first principle, with that same low level of respect simply because they have
Correct.
very
They
little.
don't love themselves. Correct. And what
Exactly.
Yes, and it's very smart what you say because love means something different for everybody. So
Yes.
you can
Yes.
think, oh, you're going to give everything possible to your children because you love them. No, that may not be very respectful because you're not letting them. Respect is the better modus operandi or operating system to
Mhm.
work from because, right, if you give love could mean overwhelming people with love and attention. Some people are
Yeah.
like, whoa, or right with children, you spoil them, right?
Yeah.
And then they don't like you, right? I have teenagers. It's they play to their idiom. They're teenagers,
Right.
but um it's not about me giving them everything they want. I've learned that the number one determinator of success for children is if they do their chores.
Mm.
That's respect. I just saw this data. If they do their chores, if they're responsible, it'll teach them to be responsible in life. Now, they may think I'm not loving them because I'm making them take out the garbage, but I'm respecting them because I know, do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's so respect, common courtesy, human dignity. That's all that's missing from the world. That's it. That's it. You know, it's so simple, very hard.
Yeah.
So if you're so look at your next day. Look at your like if you're starting a business, you're running or you're working, what can you do today to be more respectful to the people around you?
Yeah.
And you'll see the results.
Yeah.
You'll be calmer. You won't have as much ups and downs, and it'll come back. It will come back. And you don't have to love everybody. It's hard. And as you said, it's different for everybody. So
Yes.
it's very, very wise what you said. That's right.
Yes. So I know that you have some courses on your website. Can you share with the audience how it is that they can continue working with you after listening to this powerful episode?
Sure, sure. So I have some free resources actually, and I'm going to put up more and more. If they go to spiritualbiz.org, which I know you're going to list there, spiritualbiz.org. You'll see up top, they can go, and I have two webinars that are free. Just sign up. Um, and then and I'll tell you what spiritual business, it'll say learn and grow.
Oh, yeah.
And so I have two webinars there. One is really amazing. It's a productivity course. It's how to get back 10 hours a week to your life. It's a
Yeah.
very powerful course. It's free. I gave it to a bunch of corporations, so I just recorded it because it's so important for people to learn how to be productive,
Yes.
right, in their life and not run around. A lot of us run around like chickens with our heads cut off today, right? So how do you become more productive? There's best practices for that, right? I also have a webinar on thinking like a CEO, like an entrepreneur. What are the common denominators of my clients who are the most successful? That's also like a 45-minute course. And then I have two playbooks. I have two books. These are quite thick. They're not 3-page little white papers. One is The Inner CEO, taking some of these Kabbalistic principles and spiritual principles, and now how do you manifest them? How do you
Mm.
start using this information. That's called the inner CEO.
Yeah.
And again, that's based on, although I didn't scientifically study, like have results, these principles are the principles and the work that my most successful clients do. And we can see most success because they're the happiest, they make the most money. So I see having worked so long, I see what they do spiritually, whatever that means.
Right.
How they meditate or how they treat others, how they treat themselves. And then finally, for people who have businesses, I have something called the wealth in your business, which is that's very nuts and bolts. It shows you how to create profit in your
Yeah.
company and like the 47 or 37 different ways to create profit. And then, because that's all it's about. You can have a wonderful company, but you don't have profit, you're not making money.
Right.
How do you make money, especially if you're already running a business?
Right.
I give that to you. You see, and then how do you create a year, like the first year plan to maximize your profit? So it's a very practical, it's not spiritual, just a practical book, right? Because I do both. I help
Yeah.
people with the inner journey and the outer journey.
Yeah.
It's great to be spiritual, but you also want to make money. All right. You want to be a rich spiritual person. All right.
Right.
Why not? So, so it shows you a little bit of like you get a taste of how it is to work with me, but you can take these playbooks and actually implement them because some people need, most people need, right, um, accountability and coaching and somebody to make sure they put this into play, but all the parts are there. One out of 100 people can do it themselves, maybe
Right.
more. I don't know. So it's there. So these are four ways you can get something for free, which is very, very powerful. I put a lot of time into this. The production values on my webinars aren't great. It's about the content. It's
Right.
not about how good it looks. So I apologize in advance if you're used to these incredible like influencers that have this huge studios. It's just me in my office talking, but the stuff is really, really great. So that's a great way to start. And finally, you can sign up there I have a weekly email called the Zen of 10X, and people can sign up on my site as well, where I send little tidbits, little ideas every week to folks.
Yeah.
So thank you for letting me share that.
You're very welcome. And thank you for bestowing your knowledge and your wisdom and your time with us today. Because
Welcome.
whether someone is listening to this episode today or whether they're listening to it 5 or 10 years from now, everything that we talked about is so evergreen. And that's why I've enjoyed this conversation so much
Mhm.
because you've hit us on
Thank you.
on all angles.
Well, we could talk for hours and hours, and I hope to visit Savannah. I'm going to Savannah soon, and I'm
Yes.
looking forward to it. That sounds like so much fun.
Yes, it's going to be so fun. I've already prepped my husband and said, "Hey, we're going to have a dinner date, so just
Yeah,
get ready."
that'd be great. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much. This has been so great, and good luck to all of your listeners, whatever venture you're involved in. If you're looking to like start something or you already started something, this podcast is a great, great resource.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So inspiration is really, really important
Yes,
to
it
keep
is.
moving. So thank you
Yeah.
so much, Brielle, for the
Thank
work you
you,
do, because this takes
Andy.
a lot of work.
Yeah.
Put this together. You do it well. You really do it well, and it's a lot of work. So
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you for your time. So, listeners, we've already gave you so much good talk. We've already gave you so many resources. So, at this point, we are going to let you guys go so that way you can actually start implementing the work because we already know faith without works is completely dead. So, until next time, listeners, and again, thank you so much, Andy. We'll see you guys later.
Bye. Thanks.